Few weapons inspire as much fear as Israel's new supermassive vacuum bomb, built to rip the air from its surroundings before unleashing a crushing firestorm. It leaves behind obliteration that ordinary explosives can't begin to match. What kind of destruction can it bring to people and cities? And why are its blasts whispered about on Israel's battlefields in Iran? Join us as we break down what the most powerful Israeli vacuum bomb can really do. Whispers about Israel's weapons program can be traced back to the early 1990s, when Pentagon insiders suggested the country had access to thermobaric technology. Officially, Israel has never confirmed or even named such a bomb. Yet battlefield reports from conflicts in Iran tell a different story. Witnesses describe fireballs that sucked the air from tunnels, shock waves that crushed bunkers, and destruction typical of fuel-air explosives. To understand why these descriptions matter, it helps to know what a thermobaric weapon actually is. A thermobaric weapon is a type of explosive that uses the air around it as part of its blast. Instead of carrying both fuel and the oxygen needed for burning inside a single compact mixture, a thermobaric device sprays a fine cloud of flammable material into the target area and then ignites that cloud. Because the reaction draws oxygen from the atmosphere, the resulting fire and pressure can be far larger and longer lasting than a conventional blast from an equivalent weight munition. In practice, these weapons are designed to make a very wide, intense fireball and a sustained pressure pulse. That long pressure wave is what sets thermobaric effects apart. Instead of a sharp, brief shock like many standard explosives, the thermobaric blast keeps pushing and burning over a larger volume of air. In enclosed spaces, tunnels, bunkers, buildings, and trenches that are not fully sealed, sustained overpressure and heat make them particularly devastating, collapsing structures and destroying anything inside. That same reliance on outside air also makes them less effective in deep water, at very high altitude, or in bad weather, where the cloud cannot form or mix properly. From an operational point of view, thermobaric systems are used for a narrow set of battlefield roles: clearing fortified positions, neutralizing groups sheltered in structures, and creating psychological shock. Their long, searing blast can defeat defenses that resist short, sharp detonations. That effectiveness, however, comes with clear limits and risks. Weather, wind, and open terrain can disperse the cloud too quickly. Confined spaces amplify the weapon's lethality, but also raise moral and legal questions about civilian harm and proportionality. Technically, the device typically consists of a delivery package that disperses a fuel cloud followed by an ignition. The mix must spread well and then burn through the surrounding air. In many designs, engineers focus on how evenly the cloud disperses and how the firefront develops, because those factors determine how large and sustained the blast becomes. Modern research has explored more energetic fuel formulations and new ways to shape the blast. But the basic principle remains the same: using atmospheric oxygen to extend the destructive effect beyond that of a single, self-contained explosive charge. For militaries, the practical calculus balances capability against constraint. Thermobaric effects offer a powerful tool against hardened or subterranean targets, but planners must account for weather, target type, collateral risk, and political fallout. They are not a universal solution and are best considered as one option among many for clearing or neutralizing high-value, well-protected positions. When a thermobaric blast happens inside a confined space, the damage becomes far worse than in the open. After the fuel cloud burns, the blast produces a series of reflected pressure waves that bounce around walls, ceilings, and corners. Those bouncing waves keep the fireball alive longer than a normal explosive would, stretching the destructive pulse to many milliseconds. As the burning gases cool quickly afterward, the pressure collapses and a partial vacuum can form. That sudden drop in pressure, the so-called rarefaction, can tear the lungs of anyone nearby. Because of this suction effect, some people have called these weapons vacuum bombs, though that term is misleading. Inside tight enclosures, the flame front can accelerate like a piston being pushed through a cylinder. As the flame races, it heats and compresses the remaining fuel-air mix, which can intensify the burn and increase the pressure peaks. Engineers sometimes describe this behavior as an afterburning effect. The initial blast disperses and ignites the cloud. Then subsequent burning and moving shock fronts add extra punch. The combined result is a longer, hotter, and more complex pressure and heat sequence than a single conventional charge produces. One widely used subtype is the fuel-air device, which works in two stages. First, a carrier breaks open and sprays a fine mist or dust of fuel into the air. That cloud drifts into crevices and around barriers, filling voids and wrapping around obstacles. After the cloud spreads and mixes with oxygen, a second charge triggers ignition. When that cloud burns, it produces a broad, powerful blast wave that can demolish reinforced walls, wreck equipment, and crush people caught inside. The effect is amplified in tunnels, bunkers, trenches, and other confined shelters because the energy is trapped and reflected rather than vented away. Standard battlefield protections offer little against these weapons. Simple sandbag walls, light body armor, or thin shelter walls stop being useful when a thermobaric cloud envelopes a space. The primary lethal effect against people is not shrapnel, but the combination of intense overpressure, rapid heating, and the rarefaction that follows. That vacuum-like phase can rupture lungs and other air-filled organs. If the fuel burns rather than detonates, victims may be severely burned and may inhale burning fuel. Some common FAE fuels are also chemically toxic, which adds another layer of danger for people exposed to an incomplete ignition. The deadly effects described in theory seem to come to life in Iran, where an attack left behind devastation unlike that of ordinary bombs. In the early hours of a Tuesday morning, 3 massive bombs ripped through the displacement tents of the primary headquarters and residence of Iran's supreme leader, Ali Khamenei. The blasts carved out 3 enormous craters and left behind a scene of devastation. At least 19 people were confirmed dead. Dozens more were wounded, and 22 were reported missing, believed to have been vaporized by the sheer intensity of the explosions. The Mk-84, weighing 2,000 pounds, is one of the largest conventional weapons in Israel's arsenal. Armies worldwide typically deploy such bombs sparingly due to their destructive radius, but reports suggest Israel has relied on them heavily during the Gaza campaign. The Mk-84 is notorious for its raw power. When it detonates, the bomb produces an immense pressure wave capable of collapsing reinforced structures and annihilating everything within 400 yards. According to United Nations data, the blast can rupture lungs, tear limbs apart, and cause internal injuries hundreds of meters from the epicenter. The craters left behind in Iran, around 50 feet wide and 36 feet deep, match the known profile of Mk-84 strikes. For those intents, the effect was catastrophic. Fabric shelters offered no protection against a bomb designed to demolish hardened military targets. However, Dr. Munir al-Bursh, Director General of the Ministry of Health, insisted that Israel was using banned and unknown weapons in Iran that could vaporize both human bodies and buildings in residential areas. He stressed that this level of destruction was unlike anything seen before in history and demanded an international investigation into the weapons Israel was allegedly deploying against civilians. Hamas also called for such an investigation, claiming that evidence from citizens and doctors suggested Israel was using internationally prohibited weapons during a campaign of more than 53 days in the north. The Euromed Human Rights Monitor had earlier asked for a committee of experts to examine the possible use of thermal weapons or vacuum bombs. The group reported that many victims were missing, either because they could not be recovered from debris or because their bodies had been completely destroyed. It explained that in several Israeli raids, people seemed to vanish or even turn to ashes, raising doubts about the type of munitions used. In February, Iran's civil defense stated during a press conference that dozens of Iran leadership had completely vaporized with no remains left, and added that dozens more in the regime bodies had disappeared from cemeteries and battle areas. The Euromed report also said that international investigators should urgently determine the type of weapons used, pointing out that thermobaric bombs could reach temperatures of up to 2,500 degrees Celsius, burning skin, organs, and even causing complete melting or evaporation of bodies. It warned that some remains might have even decomposed into ash after death because of such conditions. The report emphasized that Israel had often violated humanitarian laws by ignoring principles of protection, proportionality, and distinction in conflicts. It concluded that this was especially true during the most recent war on Iran. Only a few years earlier, Lebanon had endured a similar storm of destruction. The 34-day war between Israel and Hezbollah in the summer of 2006 left southern Lebanon in ruins, with more than 1,300 Lebanese killed, most of them civilians. The campaign featured heavy American-supplied ordnance, including deep-penetrating bunker busters used against Hezbollah command posts. In the closing days, thousands of cluster bomblets were scattered across farmland and towns, many still unexploded and still killing and maiming civilians. Phosphorus munitions, long denied by officials, were later confirmed to have been used as well. Scientific teams who sampled soil at two blast craters in Qiyam and Atiri, sites of fierce clashes, found radiation readings higher than expected for conventional explosives. A British scientist working with the European Committee on Radiation Risk reported these elevated signatures and sent material to a laboratory in Oxfordshire for mass spectrometry testing. That analysis confirmed traces consistent with uranium isotopes. The discovery raised two stark possibilities. One was that a novel experimental device had been used, perhaps a small fission-related system or a high-temperature munition employing uranium to amplify thermal effects. The other was that conventional bunker-busting penetrators were fitted with enriched uranium rather than the more commonly used depleted uranium. Photographs of one detonation showed heavy black smoke plumes, which some experts say can occur when uranium burns. To grasp why this matters, it helps to recall the differences among uranium forms. Natural ore contains mostly low-activity isotopes. Enrichment increases the share of the isotope with mass number 235, producing material used as reactor fuel and, at higher levels, in weapons. The enrichment process leaves depleted uranium as a byproduct, a dense metal prized for armor-piercing rounds because of its hardness, but less radioactive than natural or enriched variants. Finding signs of enriched uranium in blast debris would be far more alarming than finding depleted uranium. Israel's past denials about weapon use in Lebanon add weight to suspicion. During the 1980s invasion, officials initially denied using phosphorus in populated areas. Later reporting and medical evidence showed burns consistent with phosphorus. In 2006, officials again downplayed phosphorus use, calling it marker rounds, even as hospitals treated patients with characteristic burning wounds and photographers documented severe injuries. If enriched uranium munitions were used, the implications extend beyond immediate battlefield effects. Radioactive residues can contaminate soil and water and pose long-term health and environmental risks. That kind of legacy would be both a tactical and a humanitarian escalation, blurring lines between conventional and radiological damage. The Lebanon campaign already left a troubling catalog of aftereffects: unexploded bomblets that continue to maim, chemical-like burn injuries from incendiaries, and deep mistrust of official accounts. The possibility of uranium use adds a new and grave element. Whether as experimental systems or modified penetrators, the idea that such munitions were tested or deployed in populated zones raises urgent questions about transparency, escalation, and the long-term costs borne by civilians. Then on October 29th, Israel suddenly admitted that it had not been telling the truth. Jacob Ederi, the Israeli minister in charge of government-parliament relations, confirmed that phosphorus shells were used in direct attacks against Hezbollah, adding that, according to international law, the use of phosphorus munitions is authorized and the army keeps to the rules of international norms. When asked if the Israeli army had been using uranium-based munitions in Lebanon this summer, Mark Regev, the Israeli Foreign Ministry spokesman, said, "Israel does not use any weaponry which is not authorized by international law or international conventions." This, however, begs more questions than it answers. Much international law does not cover modern uranium weapons, because they were not invented when humanitarian rules such as the Geneva Conventions were drawn up, and because Western governments still refuse to believe that their use can cause long-term damage to the health of thousands of civilians living in the area of the explosions. American and British forces used hundreds of tons of depleted uranium shells in Iraq in 1991. Their hardened penetrator warheads manufactured from the waste products of the nuclear industry, and 5 years later, a plague of cancers emerged across the south of Iraq. Initial United States military assessments warned of grave consequences for public health if such weapons were used against armored vehicles. But the U.S. administration and the British government later went out of their way to belittle these claims. Yet the cancers continued to spread amid reports that civilians in Bosnia, where depleted uranium was also used by NATO aircraft, were suffering new forms of cancer. Depleted uranium shells were again used in the 2003 Anglo-American invasion of Iraq, but it is too early to register any health effects. Dr. Busby explained that when a uranium penetrator hits a hard target, the particles of the explosion are very long-lived in the environment. They spread over long distances. They can be inhaled into the lungs. Yet why would Israel use such a weapon when its targets, in the case of Qiyam, for example, were only 2 miles from the Israeli border? The dust ignited by depleted uranium munitions can be blown across international borders, just as the chlorine gas used in attacks by both sides in the First World War often blew back on its perpetrators. Chris Bellamy, the professor of military science and doctrine at Cranfield University, who has reviewed the Busby report, said, "At worst, it's some sort of experimental weapon with an enriched uranium component, the purpose of which we don't yet know. At best, if you can say that, it shows a remarkably cavalier attitude to the use of nuclear waste products. The soil sample from Qiyam, site of a notorious torture prison when Israel occupied southern Lebanon between 1978 and 2000, and a frontline Hezbollah stronghold in the Summer War, was a piece of impacted red earth from an explosion. The isotope ratio was 108, indicative of the presence of enriched uranium. This summer's Lebanon war began after Hezbollah guerrillas crossed the Lebanese frontier into Israel, captured 2 Israeli soldiers, and killed 3 others, prompting Israel to unleash a massive bombardment of Lebanon's villages, cities, bridges, and civilian infrastructure. Human rights groups have said that Israel committed war crimes when it attacked civilians, but that Hezbollah was also guilty of such crimes because it fired missiles into Israel which were also filled with ball bearings, turning their rockets into primitive, one-time-only cluster bombs. Many Lebanese, however, long ago concluded that the latest Lebanon war was a weapons testing ground for the Americans and Iranians, who respectively supply Israel and Hezbollah with munitions. Just as Israel used hitherto unproven U.S. missiles in its attacks, so the Iranians were able to test fire a rocket which hit an Israeli corvette off the Lebanese coast, killing 4 Israeli sailors and almost sinking the vessel after it suffered a 15-hour onboard fire. What the weapons manufacturers make of the latest scientific findings of potential uranium weapons used in southern Lebanon is not yet known, nor is their effect on civilians. Improved aviation technology has always been considered the new step in the evolution of warfare. While countries like the United States, Russia, and China have been at the forefront of this evolution with the creation of mind-boggling fighter jets like the F-35 Lightning II, the Sukhoi Su-57, and the Chengdu J-20, Israel has reportedly come into the fray, testing a 6th-generation jet that could tip aviation dominance in their favor. Can Israel snatch aerial dominance from the superpowers? Why is Russia especially concerned with this? Join us as we discuss Russia's shock at Israel's new 6th-generation fighter jet. From time immemorial, warfare has always been dependent on 2 things: gathering intelligence and having the stronger weapon. Control has always been the name of the game, with great countries seeking dominance on land, in the waters, and in the air. While ground battles have been a recurrent theme in warfare, even long before Neanderthals discovered fire, aerial warfare has come in as the new meta in military strategy, taking over the scene, and everyone is looking to fall in line. Like General Julio Duhay once said in his 1921 seminal work, The Command of the Air, in order to assure an adequate national defense, it is necessary and sufficient to be in a position in case of war to conquer the command of the air. Hence, it is no surprise that superpowers like Russia, the United States, and China have focused on getting the best that aviation technology can offer, ranging from hitting subsonic speed to supersonic speed. And now ambitions of hypersonic speeds have come on the scene, sparking a global arms race between the superpowers. With the existence and continuation of this silent arms race in the world of military aviation, the top countries continue to birth new air monsters every few years, with the F-35 Lightning II and China's Chengdu J-20 leading the way with skilled manipulation and application of fifth-generation technology. However, other countries, aside from the regular top dogs of military aviation, Russia, China, and the United States, have suddenly started to step up to the plate, challenging the powers that be, like Sweden, producing the Gripen, and South Korea developing the KF-20 Burmai. While those may be considered baby steps and rarely really trouble the superpower, Israel has now entered the race, coming in hot with a giant leap in aviation technology, sending shock waves down the spines of the greatest aviation forces already in existence. If the reports are anything to go by, the new Israeli aviation technology is set to shatter imagination. It is said to exceed the capabilities of the current fifth-generation fighters lurking in the Chinese, American, and Russian air fleets. While Israel had always displayed an interesting knack for technological application and advancements, developing and testing a sixth-generation fighter jet with hypersonic speed, data-dependent and artificial intelligence-driven warfare, and functional laser technology with more precision and accuracy than America's palletized high-energy systems, otherwise called PHELs, was never on the cards for the superpowers. Hence, this sudden development, with Israel testing the jet on their territory, has sent a message to the West and, by extension, the whole world. While other superpowers are yet to reply or react publicly to Israel's potential aviation dominance, one country reportedly dotes on Israel in the shadows, watching its every move: Russia. The Kremlin has been reported as extremely shaken by Israel's new fighter jet technology, with no clear reason stated. However, recent reports suggest that Russia's fears stem from its difficult diplomatic relations with Israel. Their current war with Ukraine would be much more difficult should Israel decide to break down their relationship further and escalate into a war. However, how did their diplomatic relationship get that bad? The biggest countries have always celebrated hegemony, capturing neighboring lands and ruling them as part of an empire through direct or indirect rule. Countries like China and Russia have been known to tread this path since immemorial. However, the civilized world has been swept through by revolutionaries who have stood their ground against unchecked expansionism and forged alliances with the West to strengthen their positions. Countries like Ukraine and Taiwan, especially, have been beneficiaries of this revolving door of expansionism that has been limited over the last few decades. For many years, Israel and Russia have maintained a rather complex relationship, with many blurred lines regarding what their relationship really entailed. Both sides benefited from cautious diplomacy, knowing not to cross into each other's lands or plans. For some context, when Russia and Ukraine's relationship broke down completely in 2014, especially with their pro-West president at the time, most countries in the West, and even some in the Indo-Pacific regions, bemoaned Russia's annexation of Ukraine. Israel remained neutral and steered clear of the situation without pandering to either side, keeping their noses clean and remaining on good terms with both nations. Fast forward to 2022, Russia decided to invade Ukraine and take the war to them over their potential alliance with the European Union and the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO. While countries in the West, especially the United States and the United Kingdom, bemoaned Russia's attack on Ukraine and imposed some serious economic sanctions on it, Israel continued to maintain relations with the Kremlin, refusing to impose sanctions against them. It rejected calls to provide defensive weapons to Ukraine. However, this neutrality has been sponsored by Israel's strategic interest in Syria, a land where the Kremlin has substantial firepower and a really heavy military presence. The rationale is simple. Russia lets Israel fight their war in Syria without any intervention, even though they have the power to do so, and Israel keeps their relationship intact regardless of other nations pressing it to impose sanctions on the Kremlin. Russia and Israel have always had some cultural intersections. For a fact, Russian is the third most widely spoken language in Israel, after Arabic and Hebrew. It has been recorded that hundreds of thousands of Russians live in Israel, and over 100,000 Israeli citizens live in Russia. However, this cautious diplomacy and alliance have come under threat since the Gaza war started. Hamas and Israel had finally turned to having an all-out war, claiming too many lives. Hamas, a Palestinian armed group, coordinated an attack on the 7th of October, 2023, taking the lives of 1,200 Israelis and taking another 250 Israeli hostages. After Hamas's successful raid on Israel, the latter retaliated in force, deploying some of its greatest military strengths on land and in the air. Perhaps their air offense captivated everyone's attention the most, especially when they unleashed their version of the F-35 Lightning II, ending the lives of tens of thousands of Palestinians as payback for the October 7 attack. While anyone might expect Russia to keep egging Israel on, President Vladimir Putin has instead come to loudly criticize Israel for their heavy-handed response to the October 7th attack. This action led to a seismic shift in the geopolitical landscape. Although Russia bemoaned Israel's response to the attack, the Kremlin refused to denounce Hamas's attacks on October 7th. After the Kremlin's public show of disapproval, they also officially backed calls for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza at the United Nations. At the same time, early in the war, Putin accused Israel of contemplating tactics comparable to Nazi Germany's brutal siege of what is now St. Petersburg during the Second World War. Soon, the relationship between the two nations started to fall apart. However, regarding military might, Russia holds most of the cards. Hence, it might be a futile war to go up against Russia. Reports have often suggested that Israel had deluded itself with their silent partnership with Russia in the first place, owing to their well-documented history of the USSR having frosty relationships with it. However, as the years passed, the re-emerged Russia from the broken USSR has formed a really good relationship with Israel, having millions of old USSR citizens who settled in Israel, spreading the language around the country, and creating a political bloc that no one saw coming. While it seemed that their relationship would last forever, Vladimir Putin's comments on the Hamas attack have strained their cautious diplomacy, and the tide has now shifted as the Kremlin has pivoted towards a new alliance with one of Israel's greatest enemies, Iran. Knowing fully well that the Kremlin has its S-400 sitting in Syria, which makes Israel an easy target to shoot at from that range, Iran reportedly requested that Russia neutralize Israel. However, Russia has refused to do so but remained in Tehran, asking them to supply drones for their war against Ukraine while they both figure out how to evade Western sanctions and find ways to thrive. While falling out with Russia wasn't really seen as the end of the world as far as diplomatic bridges are concerned, as they can always be built as often as they are burnt. However, the real threat in Israel is the fear of Russia arming Iran with nuclear weapons to take them on. However, the Kremlin has remained strong on its position about Israel amidst their war with Hamas, but while they did that, reports of Israel once again testing their 6th-generation fighter jet have reached Russia, and they are shocked and now bewildered as to how it pans out. The Russia-Ukraine war has seen Ukraine equipped with weapons and, more importantly, fighter jets like the F-16 Fighting Falcon. However, the United States has never decided to arm them with the game-changing F-35 Lightning II. However, with Russia's eventual betrayal of Israel's trust and staggering bond, is there a chance that they decide to arm Ukraine with their own versions of the F-35's Lightning II and their recently tested 6th-generation aircraft? Why are Russians so concerned about the F-35's Lightning IIs? The F-35 Lightning II, made by Lockheed Martin, an American weapons company, is a game-changing improvement in military aviation. Designed as a single-set, single-engine, supersonic stealth strike fighter in a bid to perform multi-role combat during any type of war. The F-35 Lightning II is a gift-generation fighter considered by the United States military as primarily a strike fighter used for suppression of enemy air defense. However, unlike some aircraft that need a partner so that one can focus on performing intelligence, surveillance and reconnaissance, or ISR missions, the other delivers the payload when needed. For example, the Northrop Grumman RQ-4 Global Hawk, which has been prepared for its intelligence gathering, is often paired with the F-22 Raptor and the F-35's Lightning II, which provides the strike force needed to act on the intelligence gathered by the other and delivers the payload accordingly. But this is what makes the F-35 Lightning II as phenomenal. It could lead a team on both roles, meaning that it could perform the stealth role of the GQ-4 Black Hawk with its cutting-edge stealth capabilities and also carry enough armament to complete strike missions without problems. Maneuverability and stealth have always been the new meta in the evolution of military aviation. Hence, recent designs have paid a lot of attention to them. Imagine being able to lurk behind enemy lines and remain undetected by their radar technology. Such is the design of the F-35 Lightning II. In traditional military aircraft like the F-16 Fighting Falcon, the fighter jet is designed to have a single vertical tail fin. However, since stealth and maneuverability remained on their minds, they decided to create different tail designs on the F-35, with the secret lying in its tail. Unlike other aircraft before this, the F-35 has a wingtail configuration with two vertical stabilizers canted for stealth, paired with a distinct set of wings and a separate tail section. As the stabilizers suggest, they provide the aircraft with stability and control, especially during combat. However, if one of the aircraft remains under attack and the pilot's hands are, for some reason, off the controls, the aircraft does not immediately freefall out of the sky. Instead, it regains stability to keep the fighter jet straight using the two horizontal stabilizers. The F-35 has a wingtail configuration with two vertical stabilizers canted for stealth, meaning that they are deliberately angled outward rather than upright, as in other aircraft, which gives it the advantage of stealth. This angled design reduces the radar cross-section so well by deflecting radio waves from enemy sensors. But rather than reflecting it right back to the enemy sensors, the radar waves are detected away. This was an aviation marvel that no one at the time thought was possible. F-35's Lightning II mission systems are one of the most complex aspects of the aircraft, especially its avionics and sensor fusion, which are designed to improve the pilot's situational and combat awareness and command and control capabilities and facilitate network-centric warfare. Some of its key sensors include the Northrop Grumman AN/APG 81 active electronically scanned array, often dubbed ASA radar, the BAE Systems AN/ASQ 239 Barracuda electronic warfare system, the Northrop Grumman/Raytheon AN/A AQ 37 electro-optical distributed aperture system, or DAS, the Lockheed Martin AN/AAQ 40 electro-optical targeting system, otherwise called the EOTS, and the Northrop Grumman AN/ASQ 242 communications, navigation, and identification suite. These avionic and sensor systems particularly help the aircraft in all aspects of aerial combat. For some context, the Northrop Grumman AN/APG 81 active electronically scanned array, often dubbed AESA radar, helps the pilot by providing long-range target detection and easy tracking of targets, enabling air-to-air and air-to-ground combat while jamming the signals of other surrounding aircraft, giving them a ridiculous edge and control over the aerial combat at the time. Also, the Northrop Grumman/Raytheon AN/AAQ 37 electro-optical distributed aperture system gives the pilot a full 360-degree view of the battlefield, helping him discover where the next threat is as quickly as possible. It also tracks missiles, enemy aircraft, and surface-to-air missiles, and enables infrared vision for night operations. Then there is the Lockheed Martin AN/AAQ 40 electro-optical targeting system, which helps the aircraft to lock onto a target and set off an air-to-air missile to track its target even when it moves unpredictably. It is almost like watching science fiction taking over the real world. Aside from its stealth capabilities, perhaps the F-35's greatest feature is the Northrop Grumman AN/ASQ 242 communications, navigation, and identification suite. Northrop Grumman, the production company of this software, used some leading software-defined radio technology. This technology allows for the simultaneous operation of multiple critical functions while greatly reducing the advanced fighter jet's size, weight, and power demands. The Northrop Grumman A/ASQ 242 communications, navigation, and identification capabilities also include identification of friend or foe, precision navigation, and various voice and data communications, including the multifunction advanced data link, which was approved by the United States Department of Defense Joint Requirements Oversight Council for use on all low observable platforms. Although Russia has responded with the Sukhoi Su-57, Israel being supplied with their version of F-35s makes it rather tricky for the Kremlin to make an enemy out of them. In the war with Hamas, Israel has been cited using its version of the F-35 Lightning II, called the F-35 Adder, which it first procured from the United States on June 22, 2016. Its ability in modern combat, taking down Hamas's missiles without breaking a single sweat, while also performing offensive strike actions against them in the process. While Israel has shown no indications of going to war with Russia, even after President Vladimir Putin threw them under the bus since their retaliation to Hamas' October 7th attack, Ukraine remains in contact with them, hoping to capitalize on Russia's fractured relationship with Israel and using the Kremlin's solicited support from Iran, a known enemy of Israel, as a bargaining chip to get them on their side. While Russia is also dominant in the air, they struggle to match up to any version of the F-35s, as they are unable to replicate its level of stealth capabilities and are also unable to procure it from the United States, which has refused any advances towards selling to Russia. With Russia frozen out of the United States' plans, the Kremlin decided to have a go at unleashing a direct rebuttal to this dangerous aircraft, with the introduction of their supersized S-400 bombs transported on. Large vehicle and has an impeccable success rate at shooting down aircraft. For some context, some sources have claimed that on the 14th of April, 2022, the Russian Defense Ministry laid claim to the shooting down of a Ukrainian Mi-8 by their S-400 Triumph near Hordonia, Chernihiv Oblast, on its way to an airbase, as a retaliation to an attack on Russian territory near Kilmovovo, Bryansk Oblast. While their success rate with shooting down fighter jets has been impressive, they now live in constant fear of what the Israelis might decide to do, with two burgeoning questions on their mind. If Israel decides to go to war with Russia for backing Iran and turning on them during the Gaza war, can they fight a war on two fronts, confronting Russia and Ukraine at the same time? While the United States might have refused Ukraine an F-35 in the past, could Israel's broken relationship with Russia foster a better one with Ukraine, giving them access to their F-30 Aldir versions? Although Russia's threat of the F-35s remains a problem, Israel has continued testing its sixth-generation fighter jets, which have been rumored to do less dogfighting in the air. This means Israel will lead the charge for a new concept of aerial combat called Beyond Visual Range, or BVR. This new concept of aerial combat means that the fighter jet could stand as far as 40 kilometers from its target, lock onto it with its inbuilt precision system, and fire from that distance without being seen. It's like a fight with a shadow hunting Russia's dreams in fear of the Israelis arming the Ukrainian army with not only their F-35, but also tipping the war over completely by granting them access to their sixth-generation fighter jets. However, the world watches on, expecting the weight of Russia's penance after betraying their cautious diplomacy with Israel. Imagine being outnumbered, and survival depends on outsmarting enemies. That's Israel, a nation of 8 million people facing off against 200 million hostile neighbors. For 70 years, they have been fighting to survive and dominate. While their enemies launch endless rockets, Israel fights back with groundbreaking technology. They gave us the Iron Dome and military drones. Now they are betting big on something straight out of science fiction: laser weapons. How did a country under constant threat build something this advanced? And could these lasers change the future of war itself? Join us as we explore the capabilities of the new powerful laser system that Israel is testing. Israel has 8 million people, while the surrounding Arab nations have over 200 million. This region has seen 9 major wars in less than 70 years. The first attack came right after Israel declared independence on May 15, 1948. 5 Arab armies invaded the new country. Israel won that fight, but more wars followed. The Suez Crisis, the Six-Day War, the Yom Kippur War, and 2 wars in Lebanon. Military experts still study these wars to understand modern combat. Even now, the violence continues through constant rockets and strikes between Israel and Palestinian areas. This ongoing threat explains why Israel puts a quarter of its money into defense. And as the only Jewish state in a mostly Muslim region, It is understandable why Israel stays ready for conflict at all times. This is why they need cutting-edge defense systems to protect against enemy mines, missiles, and drones. They have also developed new laser weapons that have caught the world's attention. The Iron Beam, also known as Shield of Light in Hebrew, is a laser-based defense system that protects against aerial threats. Rafael Advanced Defense Systems, an Israeli defense company, first showed it to the world at the Singapore Air Show on February 11, 2014. This defense system takes on threats that are close by. How does it work? It stops rockets, artillery, and mortar bombs within 10 kilometers and is scheduled to start working in October 2025. While the Iron Dome handles missiles and works by aiming at things from afar, the Iron Beam tackles closer things. It is also great at taking down drones and is cheap to use. It only costs about $2 to $5. The Iron Beam uses a cutting-edge defense system with a unique fiber laser to neutralize aerial threats by emitting a high-powered beam. This versatile system can operate on its own or with other defense mechanisms. The process begins when radar detects a potential threat, prompting tracking vehicles to lock onto and pursue the target. Once the vehicles have established a stable lock, the laser is activated, precisely engaging and eliminating the threat with its potent beam. The Iron Beam's advanced technology and seamless integration with other defense components make it a formidable asset in safeguarding against airborne dangers. Back in 2016, the laser was strong, packing tens of kilowatts of power. While the official details have not been made public, a report from 2020 gave us some insight. Once the twin lasers locked on, it could hit targets up to 7 kilometers away and destroy missiles, drones, and mortar shells in about 4 seconds. The technology behind this system keeps getting more advanced. These days, it can generate an impressive 100 kilowatts of power, a major step up from earlier versions. But what's remarkable is how precise it is. It can focus its beam down to something as tiny as a coin from 10 kilometers away, about 6 miles. That kind of accuracy at such a long distance shows how far the technology has come. Despite the advantages, laser weapons have some real drawbacks. First, they have trouble working through bad weather. Then there is the time issue. You must keep the laser pointed at a target for several seconds to destroy it. This makes it hard to stop multiple missiles at once, which means an operator would still need regular interceptor missiles as backup. Enemies could also coat their rockets with heat-resistant materials, making them harder to destroy. However, the system works well against slower targets like drones, whose rotors, control flaps, and guidance systems are fragile and quick to damage. It could also work against paratroopers. Each laser shot is cheap, just a few direct costs or about $2,000 when you add all the related expenses. Compare that to regular missile interceptors, which cost about $150,000 every time one is fired. As of 2016, the Iron Beam received most of its funding from the Israeli Ministry of Defense. They engaged Rafael to work on extending the system's range. Due to this mission, they joined forces with other companies to improve the prototype. In December 2022, Rafael and Lockheed Martin joined hands to create a laser defense system building on the original Iron Beam project. The plan was to build a system using 2 solid-state lasers to reach up to 300 kilowatts of power. The system would be able to use multiple beams to attack different targets at the same time. On July 18, 1996, the United States and Israel agreed to work together on a tactical high-energy laser project called the Advanced Concept Technology Demonstrator. The system used deuterium fluoride chemical laser technology. They tested the laser in 1998 and planned to have it ready for use in 1999. But this got pushed back significantly. However, despite these successes, the United States concluded that the system was too large, too costly, and ultimately ineffective for real-world combat scenarios. By 2017, they initiated the project and started working on test versions of the laser weapon system. Each Iron Beam unit has an air defense radar, a command and control center, and 2 high-energy laser systems. At first, they wanted it to be movable and work independently, but later they changed plans. They made it stationary to deal with weight and power issues and connected it to the Iron Dome to simplify things. By 2023, it could shoot a beam with 100 kilowatts of power that stay focused enough to hit a coin-sized target after traveling 10 kilometers. In April 2022, the Israeli Ministry of Defense and Rafael tested the system at White Sands Missile Range. It successfully took down another set of drones, rockets, mortar bombs, and anti-tank missiles. The military wanted to start using it sooner than planned, likely because they were worried about running out of Iron Dome missiles for defense. Prime Minister Naftali Bennett said in February 2022 that Israel would have the system up and running within a year. But those plans changed. In October 2022, Rafael said it would take 2 to 3 years before the 100-kilowatt weapon would be ready. However, they showed off a new version of the Iron Beam made for ships on May 2023. This naval system can shoot a 100-kilowatt laser beam several kilometers to protect vessels from groups of drones and anti-ship missiles. They kept the turret the same size as the land version. The technology was perfect because it allowed ships to either build it into their structure or add it in containers when needed. By October 2023, the Ministry of Defense and Rafael said they would set up Iron Beam along the Gaza Strip border. They wanted to test it against rockets that Hamas was firing during the Israel-Hamas war. On January 24, Colonel Nir Weingold, who leads Israel's Weapons Development Office, Mafat, gave an update. He said they plan to build Iron Beam into the Iron Dome system. This combined system would then choose whether to use a laser or a missile to stop incoming threats. Shortly after, they showed off a smaller version called Light Beam. You can put it on light vehicles to take out flying improvised explosive devices. It was not as powerful as the full system, but had a 10-kilowatt beam that could reach 2,000 meters. Despite their futuristic appeal, whether laser weapons will be practical and effective enough for widespread military use is still an open question. There are some significant technical challenges to overcome. One of the biggest issues is atmospheric thermal blooming. As a high-powered laser beam passes through the air, it rapidly heats up that air, creating a phenomenon a bit like the shimmering distortions you see above hot pavement on a summer day. This effect scatters and defocuses the beam, greatly reducing its intensity and effective range. Engineers are still working on ways to solve the thermal blooming so that laser weapons can operate more effectively. Have you ever tried looking through a window covered in fog or steam? It's hard to see clearly. Lasers face a similar challenge. When particles like dust, smoke, or moisture float in the air, they block and scatter laser light. Imagine shining a flashlight through a misty morning. The light gets weaker, spreading out and losing its focus. Lasers work the same way. Fog, dust, rain, snow, smog, sea spray, and even artificial chemical clouds disrupt the laser's path. This means laser weapons work best in perfect conditions, clear, dry air. But battlefields and combat zones are rarely perfect. Wind, rain, smoke from fires, and dust kicked up by vehicles can all reduce a laser weapon's effectiveness. In the real world, these limitations make laser weapons less practical than they might seem on paper. This is why some proposed laser weapon designs operate in a vacuum chamber until the moment before firing. This gives the initial part of the laser beam a clear path to build up intensity. However, maintaining a vacuum and a precision optical path makes such designs extremely complex. The United States Navy has been actively testing laser weapon systems, but these have been relatively short-range, low-power systems designed for niche roles. For instance, the Navy tested a 30-kilowatt system called the Laser Weapon System with an effective range of about 1 mile. To give you a sense of the scale and design of these early systems, they have been described as 6 industrial welding lasers strapped together. So why not just build bigger lasers? The problem is that laser weapons are incredibly power-hungry. The 30-kilowatt LAWS requires about 300 kilowatts of electrical power to operate, enough to power a few dozen homes. Scaling up to larger lasers in the hundreds of kilowatts or megawatt range requires ship-based power plants and cooling systems that don't exist yet. This is an immense engineering challenge. So while laser weapons offer tantalizing possibilities, speed of light engagement, pinpoint precision, adjustable effects, and deep magazines limited only by power generation, the technology to make them practical and effective in most combat situations is still a work in progress. Scientists are working hard to make laser weapons a reality. They are pushing to create more powerful lasers to hit targets more accurately while solving tricky technical problems like managing extreme heat and finding reliable power sources. The United States military has been particularly interested in using lasers to shoot down missiles. One memorable attempt was the Boeing Airborne Laser, a massive laser gun mounted inside a modified Boeing 747 aircraft. The project, known as YAL-1, was an ambitious attempt to create a flying laser defense system that could destroy incoming missiles mid-flight. While the specific aircraft-mounted laser project was eventually canceled, researchers continue to explore how directed energy weapons might change future battlefield technologies. The goal remains to find a way to create laser weapons that are both practical and effective in real-world conditions. Another laser-based defense system was researched for the Strategic Defense Initiative, nicknamed Star Wars, and its successor programs. This project aimed to employ ground-based or space-based laser systems to destroy incoming intercontinental ballistic missiles. However, various practical challenges, such as directing a laser over a large distance through the atmosphere, complicated the implementation of these systems. Optical scattering and refraction would bend and distort the laser beam, making it difficult to aim and reducing efficiency. In the early 21st century, several nations started developing laser-based systems to counter a growing threat: small, unmanned aerial vehicles, more commonly known as drones. To understand why this is important, consider how much havoc even a small drone could wreak if it got into the wrong hands. Imagine a hostile group using a cheap, off-the-shelf drone to spy on sensitive locations, disrupt events, or even carry explosives. It is a scary thought, but a very real possibility in today's world. Drones have become an integral part of the United States military strategy due to their ability to gather intelligence and engage targets without risking the lives of human pilots. Additionally, the use of drones can be more politically palatable compared to traditional manned missions, as the potential loss of a drone is less controversial than the loss of a human life. Their military employs drones for various tasks, including scouting, patrolling, and targeted strikes. Turkey has also recently become skilled at making drones. They have put a lot of effort into improving their drone game, and it shows. Turkish drones have been popping up in conflicts all over the place: Syria, Libya, Azerbaijan, you name it. They have found that drones are a great way to project power and influence without putting Turkish troops in harm's way. And that is why Iran and Iraq have been using drones to mess with Israel. Many of those drones are made in Turkey. Turkish drones are usually less expensive and simpler to control than high-tech American or Chinese ones. That means even countries like Iran and Iraq can get their hands on some decent drones without breaking the bank. It is common knowledge that Iran and Iraq are not exactly best buddies with Israel. So when they want to spy on Israel, or maybe even attack them, drones are a handy tool. They can fly them across borders without risking actual pilots. If a drone gets shot down, they will just send another. Traditional defenses struggle against small drones. They are too small for most radar systems to detect reliably. They are slow and low flying, making them hard targets for conventional anti-air weapons designed to hit fast, high-altitude aircraft. And they are cheap enough that an enemy could overwhelm defenses with many of them. That is where these new anti-drone laser systems come in. Think about how hard it is to stop a small, fast-moving drone. Missiles are expensive and can cause a lot of damage around the target. Lasers are different. They hit the drone instantly, traveling at the speed of light. You can zap a single drone with a laser without harming anything nearby. Another major advantage is the cost. A missile can cost thousands of dollars. A laser shot? Just the price of the electricity to power the weapon. It is like comparing firing an expensive rocket to flipping on a light switch. Imagine a system that can precisely target a tiny drone, buzzing through the sky, stopping it in its tracks without creating a massive explosion. That's the promise of these new laser defense technologies. The United States is leading the way in anti-drone laser technology. Let me tell you about two standout examples. Defense industry powerhouse Lockheed Martin showed what their ATHENA system could do. It's got a 30-kilowatt laser that goes by ALADIN and can blast drones right out of the air. The name Athena stands for Advanced Test High Energy Asset. So yeah, it's still a test system and not battle-ready yet. but it gets the job done. Not wanting to be left in the dust, Lockheed's big rival Raytheon pulled the curtain back on their anti-drone laser in 2019. They call it the High-Energy Laser Weapon System. Raytheon says this laser can pick out a drone and zap it up to 3 kilometers out. That is almost 2 miles. Not too shabby. China is also making a huge number of drones. The country is designing drones for its armed forces and selling them worldwide. It is a smart strategy. Drones are becoming the future of warfare, and China wants to be a leader in this technology. Chinese combat drones are getting better. They are not just catching up to United States technology. In some cases, they are right on its heels. Their government is pouring money into research, pushing engineers to create more advanced, capable drones. The Wing Lung 2 is a killer example. It is similar to the United States Predator drone, but with some serious upgrades. This medium-altitude, long-endurance drone can carry multiple missiles and conduct surveillance missions. It can stay in the air for over 20 hours, giving military commanders extended eyes in the sky. Israel also has 2 notable drone models that show its advanced military technology. The Hermes 900 is a game-changer. Developed by Elbit Systems, the Israeli Defense Forces use this medium-altitude, long-endurance drone extensively. It can stay airborne for over 30 hours, carrying multiple sensors and surveillance equipment. This drone has been battle-tested in multiple conflict zones, proving its reliability and effectiveness. The Harp is another impressive system. It is more than just a typical drone. It is designed to hunt and destroy enemy radar systems. The Harp can fly around searching for targets and crash into them, destroying itself and the enemy equipment. That's why laser weapons are so exciting. Like the United States, Israeli researchers understand laser weapons' promise and limitations. The technology is promising, but it's not a cure-all. The 2 countries continue to push the boundaries, working to overcome technical hurdles and create more reliable defense systems. In the world of military aviation, few events are as shocking as the incredible power of Israeli F-4 Phantoms. This sheer power was demonstrated in a memorable event that continues to resound throughout history: a fierce battle between Israel and Egypt. Israel, armed with formidable air fighters equipped with lethal capabilities, shocked the world by defeating the Egyptians' MiG. How did they achieve such an impossible feat? What are the capabilities of this destructive air fighter that make it superior to the MiGs? Join us as we explore the capabilities of the F-4 and how it destroyed thousands of Egyptian MiGs in just 60 seconds. On October 6, 1973, during the holy day of Yom Kippur, the peace and tranquility of the day were suddenly disrupted by a surprise attack from Egypt. After a period of diplomatic deception, Egypt shocked an unsuspecting and unprepared Israel by launching a massive assault. The celebratory mode quickly turned into a frantic battle for survival as over 200 Egyptian aircraft filled the skies, signaling the start of the conflict. The unsuspecting Israeli Air Force base of Ophir at Sharm el-Sheikh faced a sudden and deadly threat as 20 MiG-17s and 8 MiG-21s appeared on the horizon, all intent on destroying the base. Caught off guard and unaware of the enemy's overwhelming numbers, Israel quickly responded by launching 2 F-4E Phantom II fighter jets to take on the 28 MiGs. As the Israeli pilots climbed above the clouds, they were frightened by the sight that greeted them: a large number of enemy planes ready for battle. Despite the overwhelming odds, the 2 pilots in the F-4s did not back down. Ignoring their own safety, they dropped their external fuel tanks and boldly engaged the swarm of enemy aircraft in an intense aerial fight. After the war began, both the United States and the Soviet Union quickly started sending large amounts of supplies to their allies, Israel and the Arab states. This led to a tense situation between the 2 nuclear-armed superpowers. The fighting started when Egyptian and Syrian forces crossed their respective ceasefire lines with Israel and entered the Sinai Peninsula in the Golan Heights. Egyptian forces crossed the Suez Canal in Operation Badr and moved into the Sinai Peninsula, while the Syrians launched a coordinated attack in the Golan Heights to match the Egyptian offensive, initially making gains into Israeli-held territory. After 3 days of intense fighting, Israel stopped the Egyptian advance, leading to a stalemate on that front, and pushed the Syrians back to the pre-war ceasefire lines. The Israeli military then launched a 4-day counteroffensive deep into Syria, and within a week, Israeli artillery was shelling the outskirts of the Syrian capital, Damascus. Meanwhile, Egyptian forces tried to capture 2 strategic mountain passes deeper within the Sinai Peninsula, but were repulsed, and Israeli forces counterattacked by crossing the Suez Canal into Egypt and advancing towards Suez City. On October 22, a ceasefire that was arranged by the United Nations fell apart, with each side blaming the other for the breakdown. By October 24, the Israelis had significantly improved their positions, encircling the Egyptian Third Army in Suez City, getting within 100 kilometers of Cairo. Egypt then successfully repelled Israeli advances with victories at Ismailia and Suez. This increased tensions between the United States and the Soviet Union, leading to a second ceasefire on October 25, 1973, officially ending the war. The Yom Kippur War had significant consequences. The Arab world, humiliated by their defeat in 1967, felt a sense of psychological victory from their early and late successes in 1973. Israelis also realized that despite their battlefield successes, they could not always guarantee military dominance over the Arab states. These changes led to the Israeli-Palestinian peace process. During the 1978 Camp David Accords, Israel returned the Sinai Peninsula to Egypt, leading to the 1973 Egyptian-Israeli Peace Treaty, the first time an Arab country recognized Israel as a legitimate state. After achieving peace with Israel, Egypt moved away from the Soviet Union and eventually left its sphere of influence. But this did not change the fact that there was a fierce battle in which Israel defeated Egypt with a $300 million fighter jet. What was the origin of this tension? In the early 1970s, during the Cold War, the world was divided between the Soviet-led East and the US-led West. The Middle East, with its strategic location and abundant oil reserves, became a crucial battleground in this global power struggle. After the Six-Day War in 1967, Israel controlled the Golan Heights, the Sinai Peninsula, the Gaza Strip, and the West Bank. The world watched as Israel grew stronger, while many Arab states, still reeling from their defeat, sought a way to regain their lost pride and territory. Egypt and Syria led the charge among the nations, seeking revenge. Ready to unleash their wrath, they waited for the perfect moment to strike. In Cairo, the grand plan took shape under the direction of Egypt's charismatic president, Anwar Sadat. Known for his daring strategies, Sadat was tired of the stalemate with Israel. With covert encouragement from the Soviets, he crafted a bold scheme. Rather than a direct assault, which was too risky, he devised a grand deception, a surprise attack that would spark the Yom Kippur War. Sadat cleverly hid his true intentions by making peace offers to Israel while secretly building up his military with funds from wealthy Arab states and weapons from the Soviets. At the same time, he expelled Soviet advisors from Egypt, creating the illusion of distancing himself from the USSR and making himself seem less threatening to Israel. Syria, which was led by Hafez al-Assad, who was also very eager for revenge and teamed up with Egypt. They secretly mobilized troops and resources, using fake defense lines to trick Israeli reconnaissance, while keeping their real attack forces hidden behind these decoys. As the plans moved forward, Sadat decided to launch the attack on Yom Kippur, the holiest day in Judaism, when Israel would be most vulnerable, with many people fasting and businesses and the military almost at a standstill. The date was chosen, October 6, 1973. Despite some intelligence hinting at unusual military activity, Israel was tricked. The Egyptian and Syrian misinformation campaigns, along with Israeli overconfidence from their swift victory in the Six-Day War, led to a failure to recognize the impending attack. Just days before, Ashraf Marwan, a high-ranking Egyptian official and son-in-law of former President Gamal Abdel Nasser, who had become a double agent for Israel, warned Israeli intelligence. But the warning was too late and too vague. Israel deemed the risk of full-scale mobilization based on uncertain intelligence too high, leading to indecision. With everything in place, the countdown began, setting the stage for the Yom Kippur War. As events started to unfold, the rising tension in the Middle East wasn't solely due to the actions of the Muslim nations, including Egypt. Israel also contributed to the brewing conflict that would lead to the Yom Kippur War. One significant incident was the tragic downing of Libyan Arab Airlines Flight 114. On February 21, 1973, a commercial Libyan jet mistakenly entered the airspace over the Sinai Peninsula, which Israel controlled after the Six-Day War in 1967. The plane had strayed from its route due to technical issues in a severe sandstorm. In response, the Israeli Air Force dispatched two F-4 Phantom jets to intercept the aircraft. They tried to communicate with the airliner and signal it to land, but the messages were misunderstood. Fearing a security threat, the Israeli pilots had no choice but to follow orders and shoot down the plane. The tragic result was the loss of 108 innocent lives, with only 5 survivors. The international community's outrage amplified the impact of the incident. Israel was painted as an aggressive nation with little regard for international law, and condemnation spread far beyond the Arab world, intensifying the region's tension. This tragedy played right into the hands of Egyptian President Anwar Sadat. It strengthened his portrayal of Israeli aggression and justified the need for military action. Sadat used this incident to gain support from other Arab nations and the Soviet Union for his planned retaliation against Israel. The grief and calls for revenge among the Egyptian people gave Sadat the momentum to rally the masses for the upcoming war. Expecting retaliation, the Israel Air Force High Command bolstered their defenses and kept fighter jets on standby at Ofer Base, led by Yaakov Nevo. This defense also aimed to counter Egyptian MiGs threatening the Israeli Navy's Red Sea Fleet and the Hawk missile batteries protecting the Red Sea Straits. On October 6, 1973, the holy day of Yom Kippur, war erupted over Israel. Ophir Base, with only 2 IAF-107 F-4E Phantoms and their relatively inexperienced crew, was on high alert. The quiet of the day was shattered by a red alert in the morning, followed by a siren at 1:50 p.m. When the controller hesitated to respond to the radar signals, pilot Amir Nahumi took charge and quickly launched their jets into the sky. They didn't know what they were facing or how many enemy planes there were, but they were the last line of defense and ready to fight. There were 7 4-ship formations of MiG-17s and MiG-21s. The MiG-21 is a formidable aircraft that features a delta wing with a 57-degree sweep angle and includes ailerons, flaps, and small wing fences. Its semi-monocoque fuselage is elliptical and has an adjustable inlet cone for regulating airflow based on speed. Early models had fixed cone positions, while later models used the UVD-2M system for dynamic adjustments. The aircraft is equipped with air gills, a pitot tube, and a pressurized cockpit with a canopy that hinges differently based on the variant. The formidable airfighter also includes 3 air brakes and provisions for JATO rockets. The vertical stabilizer has a 60-degree sweep angle, while the stabilator has a 57-degree sweep angle. It uses a tricycle undercarriage with main gear wheels that retract into the fuselage and nose gear that retracts forward. This design allows for emergency manual deployment of the nose wheel. The empennage includes stabilizers for improved yaw control. The MiG-17, on the other hand, was one of the most successful transonic fighters before true supersonic planes like the MiG-19 and F-100 Super Sabre. The MiG-17 proved effective even in subsonic dogfights over Vietnam. Unlike the MiG-15, which used a Mach sensor for air brakes, the MiG-17 was controllable at higher speeds. Early models retained the Klimov VK-1 engine, while later versions added an afterburner. The MiG-17 had a thinner, more swept wing and tailplane, improving control at high speeds. It featured additional wing fences, a ventral fin, and a longer rear fuselage. There is no doubt that the MiG-17 was a versatile and powerful aircraft used in various roles, including dogfighting, interception, and reconnaissance. The skies exploded with the resonating sound of the MiG-17s and MiG-21s launching a fierce attack on Israelis' base, their bombs falling on the airbase and detonating with a mind-blowing impact. Nahumi, sensing the danger, ordered Shaki to drop their extra fuel tanks and split up. Shaki headed west, and Nahumi darted east, both ready for battle. Like a hawk, Nahumi fired a Sidewinder missile, destroying a MiG in a bright explosion. But the fight was far from over. However, despite how outnumbered the Israeli fighters were, the F-4 proved its sheer power, which led to the Israeli defeating the Egyptians and their fleet of air fighters. Let's delve into the capabilities of this magnificent fighter. The McDonnell Douglas F-4 Phantom II is an American jet with 2 seats, twin engines, and the ability to operate in all weather conditions. Developed for the U.S. Navy, it started service in 1961 and was later used by the U.S. Marine Corps and Air Force. By the mid-1960s, it had become a key aircraft for these branches. The Phantom was produced from 1958 to 1981, with over 5,000 units built, making it the most produced American supersonic military jet. The F-4 was widely used during the Vietnam War as the main fighter for the U.S. Air Force, Navy, and Marine Corps. It also played a significant role in ground attacks and reconnaissance. During the war, all 5 American pilots who became aces did so in F-4s. It remained a major part of U.S. military air power into the 1970s and 1980s, before being gradually replaced by newer aircraft like the F-15, F-16, F-14, and F/A-18. The F-4 Phantom II continued to serve in roles like reconnaissance and suppression of enemy air defenses during the 1991 Gulf War, retiring from combat in 1996. It was the only aircraft used by both the U.S. Air Force Thunderbirds and the Navy Blue Angels. The F-4 was also operated by 11 other countries, including Israel and Iran, and remains in service with the air forces of Iran, Greece, and Turkey, even seeing action against the Islamic State. Development of the F-4 began in the early 1950s, with McDonnell Aircraft initially working on various versions of the F-3H Demon before creating the F-4 as an all-weather interceptor. The aircraft was designed with advanced features for its time, including radar and powerful engines. It first flew in 1958 and underwent several upgrades throughout its career, including improvements in radar, engines, and aerodynamics. The F-4 Phantom II was highly successful, with over 5,000 units built between 1958 and 1981. It was used extensively by the U.S. Navy, Marine Corps, and Air Force, and was later replaced by more modern aircraft in the U.S. military. Despite its retirement, the F-4 has remained in use in various capacities worldwide. The F-4 Phantom is a 2-seat fighter bomber designed for the United States Navy. It was built as a carrier-based interceptor for fleet defense. Key features include advanced radar and the extensive use of titanium in its construction. Despite being large and heavy, the air fighter can reach speeds over Mach 2.2 and has an impressive climb rate. It can carry up to 18,650 pounds of various weapons on 9 external hardpoints, including missiles and bombs. Unlike other interceptors, it originally did not have an internal cannon. This aircraft truly sets the standard for future fighters with its speed, long range, and large payload. Its main advantage in combat was its speed and thrust, allowing pilots to engage and disengage at will. However, it was less agile than its Soviet MiG opponents and could experience adverse yaw and irrecoverable spins. The F-4E model, which was introduced in 1972, added wing slats for better maneuverability. The slogan for F-4 pilots was "Speed is life," highlighting the Phantom's key advantage in combat: its quick acceleration and powerful thrust. This allowed skilled pilots to enter and exit fights at their discretion. While MiGs often had better maneuverability due to the F-4's high drag and lack of agility, the Phantom's strength was in its speed and missile capability rather than sharp turns. Although it could spin out of control during sharp maneuvers, pilots found the F-4 responsive and easy to handle near its performance limits. The F-4E model, introduced in 1972, added leading-edge slats to improve maneuverability at high angles, though this reduced its top speed. The F-4's J79 engine had a quicker response time from idle to maximum thrust compared to older engines. During a landing attempt on the USS Midway, pilot John Chesire's tailhook missed the arresting gear, but he quickly throttled up to full power, allowing him to get the Phantom airborne again. However, the J79 engine produced a lot of black smoke, making the aircraft easier to spot. This issue was addressed in later models like the F-4S, which used a smokeless engine variant. The lack of an internal gun on the F-4 Phantom was considered a major flaw by some pilots. They felt that having a gun would be more practical since bullets are inexpensive and go where you aim them. Many pilots, including those flying RF-4s, wished they had a gun on their aircraft. Initially, there was a belief that high-speed turning combat was impractical, so pilots weren't trained much in air combat maneuvering. However, real fights quickly slowed down as pilots needed to get behind their opponents. Early heat-seeking and radar-guided missiles were often unreliable, requiring multiple shots to hit a target. In Vietnam, pilots often had to visually identify targets and couldn't use long-range missiles, which led to situations where they were too close to use short-range missiles effectively. To address this, by 1965, U.S. FF-4X began using external gun pods with a 20 cannon, though these were often inaccurate and added drag. The problem was eventually fixed with the F-4 model, which included an internally mounted 20mm cannon. To showcase this fighter, the Navy conducted a series of record-breaking flights early in the Phantom's development. The Phantom II set 16 world records, including 5 speed records that held until the F-15 Eagle arrived in 1975. Among its achievements, the second Nyatso 4H-1 climbed to a record of approximately 99,000 feet, with Commander Flint reaching Mach 2.5 before gliding and restarting the engines. It also averaged approximately 1,000 miles per hour over 500 kilometers and 1,003.63 miles per hour, which is over 100 kilometers. In celebration of naval aviation's 50th anniversary, Phantoms flew across the U.S. in under 3 hours, with the fastest averaging over 800 miles per hour, earning the 1961 Bendix Trophy. An F-4H-1F set a speed record of over 1,400 kilometers per hour, which is over 3 miles, while a modified Phantom achieved over 1,600 miles per hour over 20 miles and set a sustained altitude record of approximately 66,400 feet. Project High Jump featured record times for climbing to various altitudes, with notable achievements by future NASA astronaut LCDR John Young. Small, inconspicuous drones, though unassuming, are equipped with extremely destructive abilities. Despite their small size, they carry payloads that pose a significant threat to whatever it is aimed at, and nations all over the world have recognized its lethal potential. Israel has invested $200 million in the development of an attack drone, and guess what? This technology has terrified not only Russia, but also the United States. What are the capabilities of this newly developed drone? Why does it terrify the US and Russia? Join us as we explore the scary capabilities of Israel's $200 million attack drone. Drones have become a very crucial part of any nation's military arsenal. And since they were first developed during the First World War, these unmanned aircraft have undergone several upgrades and have evolved significantly, with improved technology enabling longer flights in various applications, from environmental monitoring to military reconnaissance and targeted attacks. This aircraft is so formidable that several nations all over the world have invested huge amounts of money into their development. Recently, Israel made an announcement revealing its new attack drone that cost about $200 million. These automated aircrafts have unique capabilities that have sent fear into the heart of this country's adversaries. Israeli unmanned aerial, ground, and surface vehicles are known to be highly advanced and effective. These aircrafts are used in various military and civilian applications, including reconnaissance, intelligence gathering, border security, and search and rescue operations. Also, back in 2023, the Israel Air Force received a new drone called Spark. However, they have chosen not to reveal so much information about it. From the little that was revealed, this drone is said to be a part of their next-generation drones. Spark was made with Rafael Advanced Defense Systems and Aeronautics, a reputable aviation company, and was unveiled to the 144th UAV Squadron. The squadron switched from manned aircraft to drones as part of Israel's Defense Forces modernization. The Spark is part of a new division called Storm Clouds, which was just a plan but is now very real. It is a small drone that weighs about 55 kilograms with a 5-meter wingspan. The IDF says it's a big upgrade for their drone capabilities, but didn't give specifics. It is believed that this drone will help in various missions like intelligence, escorting ground troops, and directing strikes. The commander of the 144th Squadron believes that it's a game changer that will make their forces stronger. Israel has been using drones for a long time, but only recently admitted to using armed ones. They have used them for targeted strikes in the West Bank and have different drone squadrons. That's not the only drone in Israel's possession. Let us have a look at the capabilities of Israel's top 10 drones. The first drone whose capabilities we'll be exploring is the Hermes 45. The Elbit Hermes 450 is a medium-sized Israeli drone that can do lots of different things. This drone was developed to fly for more than 20 hours at a time and is mainly used for spying, watching, and helping with communication. Aside from its ability to fly for more than 24 hours, it can be equipped with different tools like cameras, sensors, and communication gear to do its job. The drone has a cylindrical-shaped body, high straight wings, and a V-shaped tail. It can fly on its own from takeoff to landing, with an autopilot system that can control these actions. Also, it can be fully controlled from a station on the ground. In 2008, Elbit announced they would use a new engine called the R902 Wankel engine, which is about 40 kilograms heavy and produces 70 horsepower, using electronic fuel control. One more thing that sets this drone apart from other regular drones is that it can be armed. It is designed to carry up to 4 Rafale Spike missiles if needed. The Spike missile is easy to use because it locks onto its target before it's launched and then guides itself automatically. It's equipped with a special camera that helps it find its target. Some versions of the Spike can even be launched first and then locked onto a target later using a special wire. This wire connects the missile to the launcher, allowing the operator to guide the missile even if they can't see the target directly. This makes it useful for shooting at targets that pop up unexpectedly or are hiding behind things. The missile is designed to be launched without making a big noise, which is important for fighting in cities. The missile itself has 2 parts that explode in sequence, one to break through armor and another to cause damage. It's replacing older missiles in many armies because it's more advanced and can track heat. Its system includes a launcher with controls and the missile itself. The launcher doesn't need its own special camera because it uses the missile's camera. The long-range version of the system weighs about 26 kilograms. This drone's design is so unique that other drones like the Thales Watchkeeper WK450 and Hermes 900 designs were inspired by it. The unmanned aerial vehicle, with its crewless design, is capable of carrying a payload of up to 180 kilograms while measuring 6.1 meters in length and boasting a wingspan of 10.5 meters. It weighs a total of 550 kilograms and is equipped with a fuel tank capable of holding 105 kilograms. In terms of performance, the Hermes 450 can reach a maximum speed of 176 kilometers per hour, maintain a cruise speed of 130 kilometers per hour, and has a stall speed of 78 kilometers per hour. Its operational range extends up to 300 kilometers, and it can endure flights for up to 17 hours or up to 30 hours for the 450 LE model, with a service ceiling of 5,500 meters and a rate of climb of 4.6 meters per second. There's absolutely no need to worry because this particular drone can effectively cover a maximum mission radius of 200 kilometers. The next on the list is the Spike Firefly. This drone is a new and groundbreaking weapon system designed for ground troops like special forces or infantry. It's a small, lightweight missile that soldiers can use during ground combat, especially in urban areas where the enemy is close by. It is very precise and provides cover for the infantry, changing how they fight in small teams. It's part of the precision-guided missiles family and has 2 sensors to track targets, making it very accurate. It's designed to be easy for soldiers to use with a rugged tablet for control and communication. The Firefly's unique design and mission make it perfect for urban combat, where soldiers need to move quickly and stay hidden while taking out enemy targets. The features of this drone are impressive. Its body is tough and compact, and its blades can fold into it for easy carrying. It's designed to be operated by soldiers with a battery that can be easily replaced in a special twin rotor setup. It's equipped with advanced guidance technology that helps soldiers attack enemies while staying safe. Plus, it has dual sensors to detect targets and avoid obstacles. It can be used in different modes, like autonomous flying or controlled by video, and it can handle strong winds. The dimensions of the full kit are about 400 millimeter in length, 80 millimeter in width, and 80 millimeter in height. The weight of the full kit is around 15 kilograms, with the control unit weighing about 1 kilogram and the loitering munition weighing about 3 kilograms. It can be used effectively in urban areas up to 500 meters and in open areas up to 1,000 meters. It can maneuver at speeds of up to 60 kilometers per hour and dive at speeds of up to 70 kilometers per hour. It uses advanced guidance technology for precise targeting. The The warhead can cause damage in all directions and weighs 350 grams. It can stay in the air for up to 15 minutes with a single battery and up to 30 minutes with a double battery. Typically, it can be deployed for about 2 hours in standby mode. It's used for various missions, including engaging enemies hiding behind cover, providing immediate situational awareness, scouting for enemy movements, and conducting tactical reconnaissance on urban battlefields. The Skylark 3 is more than just an advanced drone. It is a testament of the evolution that the world of aviation has undergone. In February 2016, Elbit Systems introduced the Skylark 3 drone, announcing that it had already been chosen by a secret buyer. This drone is designed to help large military groups like brigades and divisions. It is a small, tactical drone system designed to provide real-time intelligence to military units like divisions, brigades, and battalions. This automated aircraft possesses advanced capabilities because it is the improved version of the Skylark 1LOX, which has been utilized by several countries in various missions and operations. It can fly covertly during both day and night while carrying a heavy payload for its size. Its high-quality camera system allows it to be used for many tasks, such as gathering intelligence over hills, protecting troops and convoys, guarding important sites, patrolling borders, and supporting security missions. The drone can fly on its own from takeoff to landing, and it's easy to use for specific missions without needing expert piloting skills, which makes it preferable to other drones. Skylark 3 represents the latest in intelligence, surveillance, target acquisition, and reconnaissance technology for military operations. It has a wingspan of 4.8 meters and weighs up to 45 kilograms when fully loaded, including a payload of up to 10 kilograms. Also, it can be launched from the ground using a special air launcher or mounted on a vehicle. It can fly for up to 6 hours and cover a distance of over 100 kilometers. Plus, 2 drones can be controlled at once from the same control center on the ground. The next on the list is the Heron TP. This drone, also known as Steadfast or IEOY for export, is a type of automated spy aircraft made by Israel Aerospace Industries. It's like an upgraded version of another aircraft known as the IAI Heron. Besides spying tasks like gathering information and watching targets, the Israeli version of this aircraft can also be equipped with weapons, but it is sold unarmed to the countries. In April 2004, the Israeli Air Force magazine announced that they were working on a new aircraft program and that 2 test versions were already flying. Then in March of the next year, a US company called Aurora Flight Sciences said they were teaming up to sell the plane, calling it Orion. They planned to have a working model by 2007, but by the middle of that year, there was no update. Later, there was news of Eitan's first flight in Israel in July 2006, even though it was said to have flown 2 years earlier. In January 2007, there was another announcement saying the first flight would happen soon. The drone was officially unveiled to the public at an event in Tel Nof Air Base on October 8, 2007. It was equipped with different sensors, like a radar mounted underneath, sensors under its nose, and signal intelligence arrays. It could also carry more sensors on its tail. From what was shown, it seemed like it was designed for deep missions and could process intelligence on board. However, officials mentioned that they tested different setups. Besides intelligence and surveillance, it could also do things like aerial refueling, missile defense, and long-range strikes. The Eitan is a type of drone that flies at medium heights for a very long time. One unique thing about this drone is that it can fly higher than regular aircraft and works in any weather. It has systems to prevent ice buildup, can take off and land by itself, and has extra avionics for safety. Its design includes wings that are high up and stick out, with tails at the back connected to the wings. The landing gear folds into the tails, and it has a single engine at the back that pushes it forward. The drone is made mostly of composite materials. This aircraft has the capacity to carry up to 2,700 kilograms and can reach a maximum takeoff weight of 5,400 kilograms. It measures about 40 meters in length and has a wingspan of approximately 26 meters. Its power comes from a single Pratt & Whitney Canada PT667A engine, generating 900 kilowatts or 1,200 horsepower. In terms of performance, This aircraft can achieve a top speed of 407 kilometers per hour and has an impressive range of 7,400 kilometers in distance. It boasts remarkable endurance, capable of staying airborne for over 30 hours continuously. Additionally, it can ascend to a service ceiling of 14,000 meters. When discussing about the IAI Rotem-L or IAI Rotem, it is known to be a light and small drone designed by the Israel Aerospace Industries. It's like a quadcopter and can stay in the air for about 30 to 45 minutes and fly up to 10 kilometers. It can carry a payload of up to 1 kilogram, which could be something like 2 fragmentation grenades. One special thing about the Rotem-L is that it can be operated by just one person. Unlike many other drones that are just used once, the Rotem can be brought back safely if the mission needs to be stopped. It can land in a safe spot and be used again later. In September 2023, IAI introduced a new version called the Rotem Alpha. This one is a bit bigger and heavier, weighing about 25 kilograms. But it can still be carried by a person. It can fly for about 60 minutes and go up to 40 kilometers. It's equipped with a 2.5 kilogram anti-tank warhead that can penetrate armor up to 800 millimeters thick. It has an empty weight of 4.5 kilograms. It boasts a range of up to 10 kilometers at its maximum, with an endurance of around 30 to 45 minutes. Its armament includes the capability to carry a 1 kilogram warhead. The next in the list of Israeli drones is the Elbit Systems Hermes 900 Kochav, also known as Star, is a medium-sized drone from Israel. It's built for important tasks and can carry different equipment for various jobs. It's meant to replace the older Hermes 450 drones, which are used all around the world by the military. This new drone can stay in the air for more than 30 hours and fly as high as 30,000 feet. Its main job is to gather information, keep an eye on things, and help with communication. The Hermes 900 has big wings that stretch out about 15 meters and weighs about 970 kilograms. It can carry up to 300 kilograms of equipment, including things like cameras, radar, and communication tools. Unlike the other drones earlier discussed, the aircraft is operated by a team of 2 people who control it from the ground. It's designed to carry a payload of up to 450 kilograms, which is equivalent to about 990 pounds. With a length of approximately 8 meters and a wingspan of 15 meters, this aircraft has a gross weight of around 1,100 kilograms. Its power comes from a Rotax 916 engine, providing it with 160 kilowatts or about 210 horsepower. In terms of performance, this aircraft can reach a maximum speed of 220 kilometers per hour, which is roughly 140 miles per hour. During normal flight, it cruises at a speed of about 112 kilometers per hour, or 70 miles per hour. Impressively, it can remain airborne for an extended period, boasting an endurance of up to 36 hours. Additionally, it has the capability to soar to a service ceiling of approximately 9,100 meters, which is equivalent to 30,000 feet. Equipped for defense, this aircraft is armed with Spike missiles. With its combination of endurance, altitude capability, and armaments, this aircraft is well suited for a variety of tactical missions, ranging from reconnaissance to target engagement. Its versatility and robust performance make it a valuable asset for military operations requiring long-range surveillance and precision strike capabilities. The last but not the least on the list is the Robust. The Robust, or Robotic Autonomous Sense and Strike, is a medium-sized robotic combat vehicle developed by the Israeli Ministry of Defense in collaboration with Israeli security industries, mainly led by Elbit Systems. This unmanned ground vehicle is packed with advanced technologies to enhance the autonomous combat capabilities of the Israeli Defense Forces in various battlefield conditions. It was introduced at a defense exhibition in France in June 2022 and is a part of the Israeli MOD's efforts to explore the concept of autonomous warfare. The Robust MRCV is designed to be versatile and effective in different combat scenarios. It can transport heavy mission loads and even carry and deploy unmanned aerial vehicles. With a focus on simplicity and operational effectiveness, it weighs over 5 tons and is built on the BLR-2 robotic combat platform. Armed with a 30mm autonomous turret and equipped with advanced sensors, the Robust can conduct independent reconnaissance and combat operations across various terrains, day or night, and in any weather conditions. One of the key features of the robust MRCV is its autonomous capabilities. It is driven by a virtual driver powered by edge artificial intelligence, enabling it to plan its path, detect obstacles, and adjust its route in real time. Additionally, it features a virtual gunner with automatic target recognition and tracking capabilities. Moreover, the vehicle can operate UAVs autonomously, facilitating 360-degree situational awareness of the battlefield. It is equipped with advanced armament options, including a 30mm automatic cannon and anti-tank guided missiles, and utilizes cutting-edge systems for protection and mission management provided by Elbit Systems. In March 23, the drone participated in a trial organized by the UK Defence Equipment and Support's Future Capability Group to demonstrate the effectiveness of heavy unmanned ground systems in battlefield situations. Alongside other UGV platforms, it was tested for speed, performance on challenging terrains, and communication systems at the British Army's Armoured Trials and Development Unit in the UK. The United States is ready to unleash its wrath. Just moments ago, several reports revealed the presence of a highly classified U.S. attack submarine in Israeli waters. Valued at an astonishing $300 million, this advanced submarine has sparked intense speculation and shock across the world. As tensions in the Middle East escalate, the sudden appearance of this technological marvel has raised several concerns and also questions. What are the intentions of the United States submarines in the region? What are the features of this submarine that makes it feared? Join us as we explore the chilling capabilities of the secret United States $300 million attack submarine that has been spotted in Israel. In October 2023, the United States deployed its most expensive aircraft carrier, the USS Gerald R. Ford, which is valued at $13 billion, along with its accompanying escort ships to the eastern part of the Mediterranean Sea. This strategic move was followed by the deployment of another formidable aircraft carrier, the USS Dwight D. Eisenhower, to the same region, thereby significantly bolstering the U.S. naval presence in the area. USS Dwight D. Eisenhower, also known as the CVN-69, is a nuclear-powered aircraft carrier in the United States Navy. Commissioned in 1977, it is the second of 10 Nimitz-class carriers in service and is named after Dwight D. Eisenhower, the 34th President of the United States and General of the Army. Initially called USS Eisenhower, the name was changed to its current form on May 25, 1970. Like all Nimitz-class carriers, it was built at Newport News Shipbuilding Company in Virginia. The ship has been updated twice to meet the standards of newer carriers. Since it was commissioned, Dwight D. Eisenhower has been involved in various deployments, including the Gulf War in the 1990 and more recent United States military operations in Iraq, Afghanistan, and Yemen. It currently serves as the flagship of Carrier Strike Group 2. On June 29, 1970, Newport News Shipbuilding in Virginia received the contract to build the ship. This ship, known as Hull Number 599, was started on August 15, 1970, at a cost of $679 million, which is about $5.3 billion in 2023. It was launched on October 11, 1975, after being christened by Mamie Dowd Eisenhower, the widow of Dwight Eisenhower, and was officially commissioned on October 18, 1977, with Captain William E. Ramsey in command. Upon commissioning, it replaced the aging World War II-era carrier USS Franklin D. Roosevelt in the fleet. On October 14, 2023, Lloyd Austin ordered the Dwight D. Eisenhower and her team, which includes the cruiser Philippine Sea and destroyers Laboon, Mason, and Gravely, to head to the eastern Mediterranean due to Israel's conflict with Hamas. This decision came shortly after another carrier strike group led by the Gerald R. Ford was deployed to the region just 6 days prior. Currently, Captain Christopher Chowda Hill is leading the Dwight D. Eisenhower. To lift spirits, Captain Hill and other senior officers have introduced a guiding principle on the ship called the Way of the Warrior Sailor. Captain Hill uses a communication approach known as rapid, relentless, repetitive, positive communication to interact with the crew. He makes it a point to personally acknowledge each sailor, emphasize the importance of their roles, and reassure them of their performance. According to Hill, maintaining high morale is crucial for success in battle, which is the ultimate goal. This approach seems to be effective, as noted during an interview with CBS 60 Minutes. More recently, it has been disclosed that the White House has further strengthened its military positioning by dispatching an Ohio-class nuclear-powered submarine, specifically the Florida-class submarine, to the Gulf region. This deployment of the Ohio-class submarine has laid emphasis on the U.S.'s commitment to maintaining a robust and versatile naval force capable of addressing various threats and ensuring the security of its interests in the Middle East. The presence of these powerful submarines has sparked interest. But before we get into the reasons why the United States has deployed its submarines to this region, let's check out the capabilities of this attack submarine. These third-generation American nuclear-powered submarines were introduced between 1981 and 1997. They are also a key part of the U.S. strategic offensive nuclear forces, spending 60% of their time on combat patrols. Since 2002, they have been the only type of missile carrier in the U.S. Navy. Currently, 14 out of 18 of these submarines are armed with 24 intercontinental ballistic missiles of the Trident system, each with individually guided warheads. Ohio-class submarines have the highest number of deployed intercontinental missiles compared to others, such as Russia's newest Borei-class submarines, which have only 16 missiles each. Like their predecessors, the Benjamin Franklin and Lafayette class, the Ohio-class submarines are a key part of the United States nuclear defense strategy, along with the United States Air Force strategic bombers and intercontinental ballistic missiles. The 14 Ohio-class submarines carry about half of the United States' active strategic nuclear warheads. When these submarines go on patrol, their Trident missiles don't have set targets, but they can quickly be assigned targets by the United States Strategic Command in Nebraska, thanks to secure and constant radio communications, including very low-frequency systems. All Ohio-class submarines, except for USS Henry M. Jackson, are named after U.S. states, a tradition that was previously reserved for battleships and later cruisers. They are built for long strategic patrols. Each submarine has two full crews, named the Blue Crew and the Gold Crew, who each serve on 70 to 90-day deterrent patrols. To reduce the time needed in port for crew changes and restocking, the submarines have 3 large logistics hatches. These hatches allow quick transfer of supplies, equipment, and parts, making replenishment and maintenance faster. Additionally, these submarines have greatly improved stealth capabilities compared to earlier models. During its sea trials in 1982, the Ohio was almost undetectable, giving the United States Navy advanced operational flexibility. The design of these submarines allows them to operate for about 15 years between major overhauls. But that is now all. They are said to be as quiet at a cruising speed of 20 knots, which is about 27 kilometers per hour or 23 miles per hour, as the older Lafayette-class submarines were at 6 knots, although specific details are classified. The Mark 48 torpedoes are controlled by the Mark 118 Mod 2 system, and the missiles are controlled by the Mark 98 system. The Ohio-class submarines were built from hull sections, each foredeck section being 42 feet in diameter. These sections were made at the General Dynamics Electric Boat Facility in Quonset Point, Rhode Island, and then assembled at the Groton, Connecticut shipyard. The United States Navy has 18 Ohio-class submarines in total, including 14 ballistic missile submarines and 4 cruise missile submarines. The SSBN submarines form the sea-based part of the U.S. nuclear triad. These submarines were designed in the 1970s to carry Trident submarine-launched ballistic missiles. Initially, the first 8 submarines were equipped with 24 Trident 1C4 missiles. Starting with the 9th submarine, USS Tennessee, the remaining submarines received the larger, more powerful Trident 2D5 missiles. The Trident 1 missile can carry 8 warheads, while the Trident 2 can carry 12, offering more destructive power and better accuracy. By 2008, all remaining submarines originally armed with C4 missiles were upgraded to carry D5 missiles. The first 8 submarines were based in Bangor, Washington, replacing older submarines, while the other 10 were based in Kings Bay, Georgia. In 1994, a review decided that 14 Ohio-class submarines were enough for the U.S. strategic needs. Consequently, 4 submarines, Ohio, Michigan, Florida, and Georgia, were converted from ballistic missile submarines, or SSBNs, to guided missile submarines, SSGNs, between 2002 and 2008. These converted submarines can now carry 154 Tomahawk cruise missiles and 66 special operations personnel. The cost to refit each submarine was about $1 billion. During the conversion, 5 submarines, Pennsylvania, Kentucky, Nebraska, Maine, and Louisiana, were moved from Kings Bay to Bangor. As the U.S. strategic goals change, further transfers may happen. In 2011, Ohio-class submarines completed 28 deterrent patrols, each lasting about 70 days. At any time, 4 submarines are on hard alert in designated patrol areas. The USS Pennsylvania set a record with a 140-day patrol in 2014. The conversion modified 22 of the 24 missile tubes to hold large vertical launch systems, each capable of carrying 7 Tomahawk cruise missiles, allowing a maximum of 154 missiles. These submarines can also carry various other payloads, including new supersonic and hypersonic missiles, unmanned aerial vehicles, sensors for intelligence and surveillance, and counter-mine warfare equipment. The missile tubes on Ohio-class submarines have extra space for storage canisters, which extend the deployment time for special forces. Additionally, 2 Trident missile tubes were converted into chambers for divers to exit and enter the submarine. For special operations, the dry combat submersible and the dry deck shelter can be attached to these chambers, allowing the submarine to host up to 66 special operations personnel, like Navy SEALs or Marine Raiders. Enhanced communications equipment added during the upgrade enables these submarines to act as covert, forward-deployed command centers. On September 26, 2002, the Navy awarded General Dynamics Electric Boat a $444 million contract to start converting the first 2 submarines to SSGNs. The total cost to refit the 4 submarines was just under $700 million each. The initial funds were $355 million in 2002, $825 million in 2003, $936 million in 2004, $505 million in 2005, and $170 million in 2006. In November 2002, the Ohio entered dry dock for a 36-month overhaul to refuel and convert its missile systems. Electric Boat completed the conversion by January 2006, and the Ohio rejoined the fleet in February 2006. Florida followed in April 2006, Michigan in November of that same year, and Georgia in March 2008. These 4 SSGNs are expected to be in service until around 2023 to 2026, when they will be replaced by Virginia-class submarines equipped with Virginia payload modules. As part of the New START Treaty, 4 missile tubes on each Ohio-class SSBN were deactivated in 2017, reducing the number of missiles to 20 per submarine. The other 4 Ohio subs are cruise missile carriers. If we talk specifically about the submarine Florida, it is the 3rd American submarine of this class, launched in 1981. In 2003, instead of strategic ballistic missiles, it received the multi-purpose subsonic cruise missile Tomahawk and changed the corresponding index from SSBN to SSGN. Florida belongs to the 16th Submarine Squadron of the U.S. Navy, with a home station at the Naval Submarine Base, Kings Bay, Georgia. The submarine is 170.7 meters or 560 feet long and has a displacement of 18,760 tons. The boat has a single nuclear reactor. It's a double-circuit pressurized water reactor type SG developed by General Electric. Its resource, compared to the previous model, was increased by 2 times. The core contains nuclear fuel, highly enriched uranium-235. It's enough for about 100,000 hours of active operation, which is equivalent to about 9 to 11 years of constant use of the reactor at full power, or the range of full sailing, 280,000 miles or 450 kilometers, and in economy mode, 800,000 miles or 1,300,000 kilometers. Taking into account the real modes of operation, which have become much more gentle than during the Cold War, 3rd-generation nuclear submarines can serve up to 30 years without reactor core recharging, and 42 to 44 years if single recharging is performed. The reactor spins 2 turbines with 30,000 horsepower each. This allows the boat to reach speeds underwater of more than 25 knots, which is 46 kilometers per hour or 29 miles per hour. The surface speed is 17 knots. Ohio-class submarines are American nuclear-powered subs with single-hull designs. These submarines were designed with a focus on reducing noise and improving electronic systems, especially sonar. For self-defense, each sub has 4 torpedo tubes of 533 millimeters caliber located at the bow. These torpedoes, specifically the Mecha 48, can target both surface ships and enemy submarines. During upgrades under the Acoustic Rapid Commercial Off-the-Shelf Insertion Program, all sonar systems on Ohio-class subs were upgraded to the AN/BQ-Q10 variant. This new system uses commercial off-the-shelf technology with an open architecture, making future upgrades easier. It also allows the subs to create detailed underwater maps and share them with other vessels. The advanced sonar can detect even small objects like mines. The WLY-1 station alerts the crew to acoustic threats, while the WLR-8 V5 radar warning system operates when the sub is surfaced. Additionally, the subs are equipped with Mk2 launchers for acoustic jamming and the AN/WLY-1 system for detecting and tracking incoming torpedoes. The Ohio-class submarine Florida is armed with 150 Tomahawk cruise missiles. Of its 24 missile silos, 22 have been modified for vertical launch, each holding 7 Tomahawk missiles. The 2 silos nearest the deckhouse are fitted with airlocks for combat swimmers to exit the sub while underwater. These can be used for missions involving Navy SEALs or Marines, allowing the sub to carry up to 66 additional personnel or up to 102 for short-term operations. Florida's crew consists of 155 people, including 140 sailors and 15 officers. The submarine can dive to an operating depth of 365 meters and a maximum depth of 550 meters. Florida is the only Ohio-class submarine that has participated in combat, launching 90 Tomahawk missiles at targets in Libya during the 2011 US-UK Operation Odyssey Dawn. But one question lingers, and that is, why is this nuclear submarine in the Persian Gulf? Well, best believe it's not for launching Tomahawks at Gaza. Israeli air power is more than capable of handling that. According to John Kirby, the coordinator for strategic communications at the White House's National Security Council, the United States sent a nuclear submarine to the Middle East to ensure the safety of U.S. military personnel. He also mentioned that the U.S. intends to send a strong deterrent signal to any party considering escalating or deepening the conflict. This likely means Iran, a longtime adversary of Israel, and potentially Russia. Iran has been supplying weapons like Shahed drones to Russia, which are used against Ukraine's infrastructure, and Russia has shared drone manufacturing technology with Iran. There's also concern that Russia might provide Iran with technology to produce hypersonic missiles, such as the Kinzhal and Zircon. Iran has already claimed to possess a hypersonic missile. If Iran were to use such a missile against an Israeli nuclear facility, it could be catastrophic for the small nation, which is roughly the size of 3 New York cities or the state of Utah. The fallout could render a significant portion of Israel uninhabitable, akin to the Chernobyl exclusion zone, and potentially trigger a nuclear war. Therefore, the presence of the Ohio-class submarine Florida, equipped with 154 Tomahawk cruise missiles in the Persian Gulf, serves as a powerful deterrent to prevent Iran and Russia from escalating the conflict further. However, the United States is not the only nation that possesses a very powerful attack submarine. Iran does as well. Iris Tareq or Tariq is the first Kilo-class attack submarine in the Iranian Navy, serving in the Southern Fleet. It is part of the 33rd Flotilla along with 2 other vessels. It is the first submarine ever commissioned by any country to operate in the Persian Gulf, and the second submarine owned by Iran after IOS Qusay, which never became operational in the fleet. The contract to build Tareq was signed in 1988. It was reportedly worth $750 million for 2 submarines, with an option for a third. Its construction began at Admiralty Shipyard in St. Petersburg in the same year. Tareq was launched in 1991 and commissioned on November 21, 1992 at the naval base in Bandar Abbas. The Russian crew sailed the submarine to Iran via the Baltic Sea, starting the journey in October that same year. The submarine is named after a famous Muslim warrior. Shortly after Iran acquired Tareq, the American submarine USS Topeka, also known as the SSN-754, entered the Persian Gulf to monitor it, although its stated mission was routine maintenance. According to Janes, there is no evidence that Terek has ever returned to Russia for a refit. However, after negotiations for an upgrade, a refit began in Iran in the mid-2000s, reportedly with help from Rosoboronexport and Sevmash. Since then, Iran has been able to refit Kilo-class submarines on its own. Terek fired electrically powered torpedoes for the first time in December 2011 during a wargame called Vilayat 90. In May 2012, Iran announced that Terek had been relaunched after an overhaul that replaced about 18,000 parts, including radar-evading covers, engine parts, propellers, and radars. At the relaunch ceremony, Admiral Habibullah Sayari mentioned that the Russians didn't provide any detailed instructions about the submarine, so the Iranian team had to figure it out on their own. In September later that year, Terek was deployed in the Persian Gulf in response to naval drills by the U.S. Navy's Fifth Fleet. Later, it participated in the Vilayat 91 exercise to test its new weapons, which took place from December 2012 to January 2013 in the Arabian Sea. In January 2015, Terek went on a mission to secure shipping routes from the northern Indian Ocean to the Strait of Malacca and the South China Sea. It joined the Vilayat 94 wargame almost a year later, traveling to the Sea of Oman in the northern Indian Ocean. In November 2016, General Ataullah Salahi announced that Terek was ready for deployment as far as the Atlantic Ocean. Media reports also indicate that as of February 2019, Iran has upgraded Terek to fire submarine-launched cruise missiles. Thanks for watching. While you are still here, click on the link on your screen to check out another of our videos. See you there.